in this series. We've got all our samples loaded into the sample banks now. Okay, from C to E. Okay, I've got it in a loop at the moment, so it's just looping forwards. Okay, so let's see what we can do with this. I'm going to take it off the loopers just a second. Okay, down below here you've got a sample. Okay, and you can see if I just play it. Okay, it's a drum and bass loop. Sample start time. What actually happens with this is that if you have a loop and you move the start point forward, okay, it obviously starts further on in the piece. With sample start time on here, the same thing applies. It's like moving this forwards to the end of the loop. So here's our loop. I'm going to gradually move it forward a bit. Okay, so if you move it too far, there's nothing there. Okay, that's right at the end of the loop. Okay, let's get the boy bit. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to reset this a second. There we go. Okay, so we've got some octaves. Take it up an octave, down an octave. We can tune it in semitones. And we've got a fine tune there. This is really useful if you're using samples that aren't in the same pitch as your song. And you might need to adjust them either not so much by octave but more by semitone, or even if they're not quite in key you might need to use the fine tuning to adjust it. Okay, so these are the same as I was saying on the subtractor as your controls there. You've got a keyboard tracking. Okay, which if you had all the samples in you could turn off, and then it would just be, say you were doing a drum sample, you could turn it off so it sampled across it so it didn't track the keys. Okay, we've got an amp envelope. This is a bit of an odd one. What it does is it sets the amp envelope to control the sample, so you can make it sound like it's a record deck either starting up or slowing down. So it starts fast and slows down, or it starts slow and speeds up. Okay, it's quite a cool little effect. Okay, now it's controlled. Okay, it works in conjunction with the amp envelope. Okay, so it's quite useful. Quite a cool effect. You come across to your filter, you've got your same controls, so you can have a notch filter. Okay, we can have a high pass filter. Let's put sample time back to the start. A band pass filter. Okay. Okay, and your resonance control and frequency control, just like on your there. And this really works in a subtractive way. You know, it's still removing kind of harmonics from the sound, getting rid of the brightness and making it duller. Okay, and these filters still work in the same way. Okay, and I turn the resonance up, it boosts the filter at the cutoff point. Okay, you can also make it track the keyboard if I was using all my keys. In this case, that's not really relevant. Okay, across to the LFO. Okay. Okay, so we can do some odd things by sending it to the oscillator. Okay, sync it if we want, so it syncs to an exact rhythmic value. Okay, we'll send it to the filter. Do it on band pass. Okay, make a real sort of transforming kind of filter sound. Okay, or pan. Okay, you can't really hear it, but it's going from speaker to speaker. On an auto pan. Okay. Okay, so the smoothest one of those is kind of using the triangle wave, so you get a nice smooth auto pan. Okay, come across to here, I can use my mod wheel to change things like the LFO, if I didn't have any LFO on. Or okay, more LFO, so more panning. I could have the frequency resonance turn up, the filter frequency turn down so it becomes duller. I put the mod wheel up. Okay, I could change the pitch of it. Okay, using the pitch wheel. Okay, I can use my portamento to slide between notes. Again, this isn't really relevant when you've got samples that are loaded in on individual notes. You can't really slide from one to the next, or it wouldn't really make a lot of sense if you tried to do that. But you can control polyphony, so if I only wanted to trigger one sample at a time, that would stop me being able to press two keys and trigger two samples at the same time. Okay, legato and retrig again. More relevant when you're actually using overall sounds, because you want to be able to play smoothly from one note to the other rather than individual samples. Okay, but still all useful features to have. That covers most of how this works as far as a sampler is concerned. It has its limitations. You'll notice that if I change the octaves, then all the samples change octave. Okay, if I change the sample start time, I change the sample start time of all the samples. Okay, this means that a lot of the time, rather than using multiple samples, if you want to make changes to the samples rather than just trigger them, you'd probably just want to create another NN19 and put one sample in it. It becomes more complicated to map it out, but it's good to understand how you map them out. And if you wanted to, for instance, sample your guitar across here, you could make a load of key zones like this, and then sample your guitar to one point at one point in it, and go up the neck and kind of gradually get the sounds in.